What's going on, guys, and welcome back to another episode of the German Barrel Podcast. And today I want to talk about the Chicago Bears wide receiver situation at the moment. And honestly, at the moment, it's not looking too great. N'Keal Harry will be injured for a longer time with a high ankle sprain. Also, Byron Pringle is injured for a couple of more weeks, although he's expected to start week 1. And also, David Moore injured his leg yesterday in the Family Fest practice, so not looking too good at the moment. And overall, we all know that the wide receiver position with the Bears is not too great at the moment. So today I want to go over some free agent wide receivers that are still available and could bring some valuable stuff to the team, as well as some trade and cut candidates at the roster cutdown days. And with that being said, let's get right into it and talk about the first guy I want to mention today, and that is Will Fuller. Will Fuller is a wide receiver that is well known throughout the league still, and is 6'1", 184 pounds, and only 28 years old, so still a younger guy. He was drafted back in 2016 in the first round with the Texans and carved out a nice career, but obviously I think everybody knows that has a lot of injuries, has a big injury history, and could just never put together an entire NFL season. But he showed so many great things with the Texans. I mean, that's the thing. In 2020, he had 879 yards and 8 touchdowns, which was his best season of his career, and that was in only 11 games. So that's absolutely insane. I mean, if the man could stay healthy, he would be an amazing deep threat in the league, well known, and just would sign a big contract, but he just simply can't stay healthy. And after 2020, he signed with the Dolphins and really had just 2 games, 0 started, and was injured again. So, I mean, signing Will Fuller would not be a huge risk, in my opinion, because you can get him on a very cheap deal because he just keeps staying injured and he just won't get a big deal out of anybody. So his deal probably would be cheap. And also, I mean, if he gets injured, it is what it is. But if not, then you get a very explosive wide receiver that has experience of playing at a high level, that can take the top of a defense. Obviously, we have Mooney with that as well, Velus Jones Jr., but you can never have enough fast and explosive wide receivers on your team. So Will Fuller is definitely one of my favorite options left on the table. It's a low risk because, like I said, the deal will be cheap. There's nothing about it. So getting him would be absolutely amazing. He has experience also getting touchdowns, deep touchdowns. That's something you definitely need on that offense. I mean, we're talking about 77-yard receptions, 73-yard receptions, 54, 59, 53-yard receptions. The guy's an expert at that, and I would absolutely love seeing him in a Bears uniform. So that's someone that polls should definitely consider. Moving on to the next guy I want to mention, that is John Ross. And John Ross, obviously well known for his 4.22 40 time back in the 2017 NFL Draft, where he just set that record for the fastest 40 time in NFL Combine history. He was a first-round pick with the Cincinnati Bengals and just never lived up to the expectations. He's 5'11", 194 pounds, and still only 26 years old, so still pretty young. And the thing with him is just, like with Will Fuller, mostly injuries. Obviously, he did not perform on a high level like Will Fuller did for some couple of years, but John Ross still is talented, I think, and just never could stay on the field, which is obviously super sad. His best season was in 2019, where he started in 8 games, played in 8 games for the Bengals, and had 28 receptions for 506 yards. The longest one was a 66-yard reception and 3 touchdowns. And the year before that, in 2018, he played in 10 games, had 210 yards only, but had 7 touchdowns. So he had 2 pretty good seasons. 2018, 7 touchdowns. 2019, 506 yards. So I think there's still talent with John Ross, to be honest, and the Bears would honestly, or should honestly, take everything that is available at the moment, because the receiver situation just looks super bad. And I mean, John Ross is obviously that burner, that super fast wide receiver, and I don't mind having him on the team. He probably will be super cheap as well. He signed a deal with the New York Giants last season, a 1-year, $2.25 million contract, and then later in the season was also placed on IR once again, so his price will probably be even lower than that, and I wouldn't mind that. I mean, Poles still has money to spend, and John Ross would be a nice option to have on the team. Obviously, there's once again the risk of him getting injured, but on that cheap kind of a deal, I will take that chance any day of the week. And with that being said, I want to move on to the more veteran-like options that are still available at free agency, and those players are more likely wanting to sign with a contender in my opinion, but I mean there's still a chance that Chicago could land one of those if a contender is not interested in them, and one of them would be Emmanuel Sanders, who is obviously well known around the league, 5'11", 180 pounds, and is already 35 years old. I didn't know he was that old already. He also has already a Super Bowl ring with the Broncos back in 2015, so maybe he has enough of winning. Obviously, he probably doesn't have, but I mean, he is just such a consistent, great guy. Had 3 seasons over 1,000 yards and still putting up great numbers over the last couple of years. 2020 with the Saints, 726 yards and 5 touchdowns. With the Bills last season, appeared in 14 games, had 626 yards, 4 touchdowns. And he's just a guy that puts up consistent good numbers every single season, no matter on which team he is. That's actually kind of insane. He switched a lot over the last couple of seasons. I mean, since 2019, he was on 4 teams: Denver, San Francisco, New Orleans, and then Buffalo. But he's always made some plays and adjusted well to the offense, so that would be a beneficial part. And also, he's such a great veteran to have in your locker room. Everybody, I've read so many great things about every team he's actually joined. Every receiver got better through him, and his locker room presence was just amazing to have. So Emmanuel Sanders would be a dream pickup to have, but I doubt he's going to sign with the Bears. And also to mention 2 other veterans, T.Y. Hilton is still on the market, 32 years old at the moment, and had just an injury last season and was put on IR to end the season in September, so that's obviously not great, but he's still a wide receiver that can produce. 2019, 501 yards, 2020, 762 yards, and 2021, until he was injured, he appeared in 10 games, had 331 yards and 3 touchdowns, so I think T.Y. Hilton is still a player that is talented and can bring something to a team. But I mean, he was a long time Colt, and I think he's now at the moment either seeking a deal with the Colts once again, or he wants to join a contender. I doubt he's going to be a member of the Chicago Bears. And the last veteran option I actually want to talk about is Cole Beasley. Cole Beasley, obviously being on the smaller side, 5'8", 174 pounds, is 33 years old now, and carved out a really, really good career after his Dallas days with the Buffalo Bills. I mean, in 2019, he had 778 yards, 6 touchdowns. 2020, 967 yards, his best season of his career at age 31, and 4 touchdowns. And last season, he also had 82 catches, 693 yards, and 1 touchdown. So he would just be an incredible security blanket for Justin Fields to have in the offense. He's better for shorter routes. Obviously, he's not a guy that takes the top off the defense, but he will get open no matter what, even though he's now 33, and just catches everything thrown his way. And he would be a nice safety blanket, like I said, for Justin Fields to have. But like with the other guys, I think he's more interested to sign with a contender, but he's one of those guys that I could see also signing with the Bears, and he would be a nice potential guy to have on your team as well. So that wraps up the available free agents at the moment that are the most interesting in my opinion, and that brings us to the actual trade or cut candidates. And the first guy I want to talk about in this segment is Darius Slayton. Slayton is 6'1", 190 pounds, and was drafted in the 5th round back in 2019 by the New York Giants, and is only 25 years old, and really carved out a really nice career for a 5th round pick. In 2019, he had 740 yards and 8 touchdowns. What a great rookie season for a 5th rounder especially. Then in 2020, 751 yards and 3 touchdowns. And in 2021, he appeared just in lesser games and didn't start in a lot of them. He appeared in 13 games and started 5 of them and had 339 yards and 2 touchdowns. And at the moment, it's looking like he's actually only taking reps with the 2nd or even 3rd team in training camp. So it looks like he is a cut candidate doing the roster cuts for the Giants, and he would definitely be someone that I want the Bears to have. He's still young, 25, showed so much potential, is a bigger bodied guy, so he can play on the outside, and he would be a dream pickup if the Bears actually will get him if he gets cut. Or, I mean, he would also be a candidate to trade for with a later round pick. He's incredibly athletic, ran a 4.39 40-yard dash back in the combine, and also a 40.5 vertical. So you take a chance on a player that's produced a lot already in his career, is still super young, so he would definitely be a great addition. Also a guy that seems like is on the trade block or a cut candidate is wide receiver Denzel Mims. Mims is a 6'3" beast, 207 pounds, and was drafted in the second round in 2020 by the New York Jets. He's an athletic freak, ran a 4.38 40-yard dash, which is insane for his size, and also had a 38.5 vertical. And I mean, the guy's just highly talented, but the problem with him is just like with the most of the guys that I've mentioned today, he's constantly injured. In 2020, his first season, he had 357 yards, 0 touchdowns, and last season 133 yards and 0 touchdowns. And I mean, it's just a guy you could probably acquire for not a lot of draft compensation via a trade, or you sign him for a lesser deal after he gets cut. If he actually will get cut, that's a big question. But I mean, Denzel Mims is just, the size-speed combination is just so intimidating, and he's really, really good in my opinion, and still has that potential. Only 24 years old, so still super young, and that would definitely be a great deal that would actually work for the Bears, I think, kind of well if he stays healthy, and I would just love that addition to the Bears. And then I want to talk about Keke Coutee as well. Coutee is a 5'11", 180-pound wide receiver, 25 years old, and a former Houston Texan. He was drafted in 2018 in the 4th round by them, and last season got signed by the Indianapolis Colts, and he kind of had a solid career with the Texans as well. Best season was in 2020 with 400 yards, 33 catches, and 3 touchdowns. He appeared in 8 games and only started 4, so for that amount of games, having that many yards and touchdowns is actually kind of incredible, and he is highly talented and appears to be a cut candidate for the Colts as well. Let's see how that actually turns out, if he makes the roster or not, but if he gets cut, he should definitely be on the radar of the Bears to be a pickup there or through a trade as well. But I would love snagging him off of the waiver wire and just acquire him later in the preseason. That would be a really good addition to the team as well. He could bring a lot of stuff to our offense. And lastly, I want to mention 2 Tampa Bay wide receivers. And with Tampa Bay at the moment, they obviously have a pretty sick wide receiver room. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and Julio Jones are the 3 biggest ones. And they also have Russell Gage on the roster. So guys like Tyler Johnson or Scotty Miller both could be cut candidates. Tyler Johnson, 6'1", 206 pounds, is obviously more the kind of outside type of guy. Was drafted in the 5th round in 2020 and had some solid production. And always when I watched the Bucs, he was kind of underrated and made some really good plays. His best season was last season in 2021, 360 yards and 0 touchdowns though, and in 2020 he had 2 touchdowns and 169 yards. And I mean, the guy's talented, he has great size, good speed as well, and it's just a underrated player. Obviously Tom Brady was his quarterback, that's something different. He makes players a lot better. Justin Fields is not at that point in his career yet, or he was not at that point last season. Let's see how he does this season. But Tyler Johnson, if he gets cut or is available for a trade, he would be a great option as well. And then the other guy from Tampa Bay, Scotty Miller, he's obviously pretty talented. You saw that in that Packers championship game where he had that clutch touchdown. He's only 5'9", 174 pounds, was drafted in the 6th round in the 2019 NFL draft by the Bucs. And I mean, he carved out a really, really underrated career with them. In 2020, he had 501 yards, 3 touchdowns for them, and really was a great target for Tom Brady in that season. And I mean, he would just be a slot kind of a guy, or you put him on the outside to beat someone with his speed. He is incredibly fast and especially quick. I mean, his acceleration and quickness is off the charts, and he would be a great addition to the offense as well, kind of your slot receiver or take the top of your defense kind of a guy that you could acquire for cheap and would be a nice addition to the offense as well. So with that being said, definitely let me know in the comments down below what you think the Bears should do with the wide receiver position at the moment. Do you like any of these options that I've mentioned or not? Definitely let me know about that. And that's already the end of the video, guys. I hope you've enjoyed it. Like and subscribe if you liked the video. Check out Instagram if you want to as well. And as always, guys, bear down.